I just can't get myself to hate Arcueid.
お願いだから逆らわないで。私にあなたを殺させないで。
I don't know if it's because she isn't paying attention or what, but it seems like Arcueid's perfection is fading away. Her pleading voice is little more than a whimper. I can't ignore what's happening with her, not because of revulsion, but because I could never let her get away with making such a mistake. So, I can't do as she says.
シキ、それとも私のことは嫌い？
She stares straight at me. Still pinned to the ground, I gaze back up at her face. I fixate on it. I stare at it so hard, I feel like my brain's about to burst into flames. I desperately hunt for the point I couldn't see, never wanted to see. I hear something creak inside my head. It isn't the sound I've been hearing all day, of my skull cracking. Instead, it's the sound of fissures running through my brain itself. I stare at her intently, as if this is the last time I'll ever see her be so serene. I need to look at just one point and etch it into my mind. Point between her consciousness and mind, the point where she's likely held together the weakest.
アルクエイドのことは嫌いじゃない。
本当？
Her reply is immediate and exuberant. My answer must have seemed as wonderful as a twinkling star to her. But I can't do it, Arcueid. Your confession of love was built on a false premise. When the only choice you could give your partner is between obeying or dying, they can never give you what you want. On that night, the flower of the moon smiled by the window. If I truly care about Arcueid, then... My forehead is burning up. But even though my brain is beginning to boil from the heat... Oh, you still see the point. I see it. A solitary, faint, and thin line of death.
けど、やっぱりお断りだ。俺が惚れてるのはシエルであって、アルクエイドじゃないんだから！
Arcueid's eyes become clouded by rage. But before she can do anything... Cut. I trace the line on her neck. So are the same events going to play out like usual? I cut her line, she turns all pissy, and that's the end of it? Ciel's here. High in the sky above the residential district, the executor races across the blind spot above the city, a place where only birds might spy her. She's breathing heavily, a tense expression on her face. Ciel, someone who doesn't even bat an eyelid when fighting dead apostles, now finds herself tormented by anxiety and fear, the likes of which she has never known before.
早く、もっと早く。
From rooftop to rooftop, from building to building, with complete disregard for the roads below her, Ciel carves a straight line through the air towards Suya. No, toward the source of this aura. She'd only noticed this abnormality a few minutes ago, right as she was getting off the highway on her way back from the local branch of the church. As soon as her taxi got close to Suya, she realized that Shiki had become involved in a truly doomed situation. The whole city is fast asleep. The pall cast over the atmosphere isn't the result of magecraft or a curse. She can't sense any such disturbance of magical energy in the air. But Ciel can tell from experience that something is off about the entire city. It's being engulfed. It's being closed off. It's like a tornado or something forming in the clouds. Something, the power of some preternatural existence, is warping the very fabric of reality, forcing the world to conform to the will of a single individual. According to legend, true ancestors can alter the natural state of the world just by thinking it. She's heard of this before. Such arcana has been documented by the church.
マリオ司祭代行は何を
Ciel's frustration at the situation spills out into words. She hadn't wanted to have to rely on acting Prime Minister Mario, but now she isn't even able to get in contact with him anyway. The executors lurking in Soya under his command haven't shown any sign of taking action either. Ciel has yet to be informed that both Mario and his executors were taken out of commission last night. Yeah. She works to calm her racing thoughts. She has no way of knowing what's happening, but it's abundantly clear who's to blame. She had predicted something like this might occur. Her worst enemy engaging in a final hunt to take her life.
arcueid!
Channeling her stress into her legs, the executor accelerates, making a beeline toward the source of the disturbance, toward arcueid. She doesn't even think of taking a detour to pick up the 7th scripture. Her instincts are screaming at her that if she succumbs to that level-headed thinking, if she prioritizes her fight against the true ancestor over his life, then unlike before, she truly will lose everything.
見えた南口公園
With her Magecraft-enhanced vision, she pinpoints her destination and her target. She can make it, just as her hopes begin to rise at that prospect. Whoa. What kind of Da Vinci-looking painting is this? Whoa, what the hell? Oh, that spider, thing. She's confronted by something that defies comprehension. There, on the side of a building, clinging in place on the vertical concrete wall, is some inscrutable thing. Damn, look at that thing. Even looking at it again, like, Jesus. Its outer skin is as hard as bark, yet still as supple as leather. Its abdomen is bloated and misshapen. From its protrude 6 legs, claws and tusks like those of a colossal dinosaur jut from the lump on its right shoulder. The lower body resembles a spider, while its upper body looks almost human. That said, its eyes give off a distinctly spider-like impression. But what's most bizarre of all is the murky and jumbled consciousness being given off by that apparition, which she can't pin down as either hostility or outright bloodlust. Perhaps it's due to the present situation, or perhaps it's a reaction to the monster's bizarre form. But either way, she can't help but feel like there's a nebulous, yet almost preordained sense of critical importance to this encounter. The battle lasted less than a minute. Ciel did not show so much as a sliver of hesitation. Charred. Human morals. Basic principles of combat. Even her survival instincts as a living being. She had thrown them all to the wayside and eliminated her enemy. In other words, the two had fought to the death, fully aware of their mutually assured destruction, and reduced each other to mere blood and guts. Bye. As the sound of demolition, or rather dismemberment, fills the air, the monster ceases to be. Its body has been completely annihilated by Ciel's black keys. Dang, that's all it took? 96% of the surface has been pierced, burned, or tore off, rendering regeneration impossible. Its massive left arm, specialized for close combat, had been put into an arm lock and ripped off. Then, to finish it off, she had delivered a 50-ton impact to its gargantuan, now unprotected, sternum. Just looking at the extent of the destruction would lead you to believe Not even this seemingly immortal monster could come back after suffering such devastation. Arguably, it had already lost the moment it challenged a true immortal, an unlimited regenerator like Ciel, to a battle of attrition. Even so, the fight inflicted far more damage to her than she had anticipated. Not to her body, but to her mind.
今のは一体
It was something that could never have arisen naturally. There have been cases of humans being transformed by the blood injected into them by dead apostles, but never into something so grotesque as this. The only possibility she can conjure is that it had to be something left behind by Roa. It's possible that during one of his reincarnations, he researched the possibility of creating hybrid life forms by crossing humans with animals. That thought launches itself into her mind. But does that mean, if she were to unravel Roa's knowledge, she too would be able to create such twisted victims?
いえ、そんなことより
Back to the task at hand. Just as blood begins to flow once more through her freshly restored body, the Executor turns her attention elsewhere. That nameless monster isn't her true enemy. The most beautiful destiny in the world calls to her. As it does, the person she cherishes more than herself is fighting right before her eyes.
お願い、遠野くん
The despair of the world's cage has engulfed Soya. And yet, though she understands better than anyone how unimaginably dangerous it is, the Executor still soars through the skies toward the city. Okay. That's something we didn't get last time. My shackles are released. Arcueid doesn't move. Cutting her line must have weakened her temporarily. I take the chance to slip out from under her and put some distance between us while I can. Now that I'm free, I'm finally able to start breathing again. I pant heavily as I try and calm my racing heart and fevered brain. It's going to take me a few seconds before I've caught my breath and can run away. As for Arcueid, though, she'll recover from a wound like that in no time, after which she'll be hot on my tail again. Arcueid's arms, which had been propping her up, slowly slide out from under her. She collapses onto the pavement, almost like she's just fallen asleep. Wait, has she still not regained consciousness? I freeze up at the sight of the red liquid. I mean, sure, I did cut her neck, of course she'd bleed. But for her to fall down so easily, so like a human would, is something I never expected. That isn't the only thing that seems wrong. Blood, that crimson liquid, rich and dark as wine, is pouring out of her. It's like an entire sea of blood has spilled from Arcueid, almost as if a wound had been gouged into the world itself. Her red blood continues to spread across the stone plaza. The ominous vermilion color stains her pale figure, as though tainting it with poison. I've seen this before. The dull glow of her pooling blood. Did I actually kill her? There's no way. No way. No way! It wasn't like back then. That one faint line was all I could see. I only put up this paltry resistance because I'd become aware of just how vast the difference in ability between us was after becoming a vampire. I was just desperately struggling to try and stop her. That's all. There's no way I could do that. There's no way someone like me could ever kill her. That's impossible. My legs had been poised to run away, but now I swallow nervously and turn to rush over to Arcueid. Up comes an arm. Still flat on the ground, she raises one of her arms like the bent leg of a spider and firmly plants her hand against the stone.
停止したのは首なのに、そっちよりはるかに胸が異常を訴えている。
The blue text? I don't know if it's more or less ominous than the red text. Probably less, but still. Those thoughts come not through words, nor through telepathy, but as though carried on her breath. The sublimation of nature's will.
痛い、好きなのに辛い、嬉しい、熱い、苦しい、やっぱり大好き。でも手に入らないものはないのと同じ。
Is this like the human, or the more human side of arcueid, and like the more goddess side of arcueid, like having a conversation or an argument with each other right now? Is that what the blue and red text is symbolizing?
どこにもないから私の手に入らない。
She's clearly talking to herself one way or another.
でも拒絶された、比べられた、また無残に殺された、またなら私も同じことを。ないあんなやつ初めから存在していない。
And then, I hear the sound of the world grating against itself. The sound that rings in my ears is distant yet unbearably close. It's a familiar sound, the sound of life coming apart, which can only mean one thing. That sound marked the death of this very world. Fresh blood dribbles from her throat as she breathes. Arcueid's arms tense up as she pours strength into them. Her crimson blood continues to flow. Without making a sound, her body starts to lift itself off the ground. She raises her face from the pool of blood. I catch sight of her eyes, framed by her golden hair. The black, hollow eyes of a withered skull. Yet there, burning like a fire in their depths, is the bright red of the blood moon. Something feels different. What the hell is happening? The stone pavement, the street lights, the buildings, all of the man-made structures built atop the earth are sliding toward her. Almost like it's being stripped of all ornamentation. Almost like its paint is melting off. All of creation is starting to be deprived of its essence, as if the surface of the world is being peeled clean off. The man in my head extols this inscrutable phenomenon. Whoa. This is the power of a true ancestor. As the touch of the planet, her fantasy manifestation, marble phantasm, allows her to rewrite the Earth's surface however she sees fit. This city is already done for. This entire region is done for. Both buildings and beings will be converted, flattened from 4 dimensions down to 2. And consumed. From event conversion to event storage, next comes the inner sea of the planet, long having forsaken you, indistinguishable from before. Celebrate it, fear it, kneel and embrace your death. Now, just a bit more, and your world will turn inside out. Power scalers, pay attention. Her eyes are clouded. She tries to push herself back onto her feet with one hand, but her strength doesn't seem to have returned yet, so she falls back down again with a splash of blood. With each and every fall, her body grows redder and redder. She keeps trying to get up, only to slip and fall. Over and over again. Almost like she's enjoying the way she's clumsily flailing around. I can't move. Her voice, her appearance, her will. I'm powerless to stop them from flooding into my head. My own will gets swept away, dissolved, tossed about. My world spins around and around. As it does, her thoughts invade mine. Never have I known such a disgrace. Never have I experienced such humiliation. And that is why I enjoy it. I can scarcely imagine the pleasure I'll derive from crushing Shiki with the fury of my passion. I'm sure it'll be fun. Incredibly fun. So fun that I'll happily trade the world for it. I'm so happy. So happy. So happy. I can't hold back anymore. I won't let him go ever again. I can't wait. I can't wait to tear him limb from limb, rip open his ribs, pull out his guts, stomp on his throat as he calls for help, then crack open his skull and smear his brains all over the floor. Arcueid laughs maniacally, a crazed grin on her face as she writhes in a pool of her own blood. All of a sudden her skirt's gonna become longer and turn maroon? Like, what color is it really? It's like a shade of some sort of shade of red, like, or maybe like purple would better describe it. Yeah. I can't move. Something isn't right. My soul is frozen to the core. I really will be killed if I stay here. I have to run. It doesn't matter where. I just need to get out of here. I'll be killed if I don't. And yet, my legs won't move. The world has vanished. Because of me. Without a trace. No, it has been reduced to a world of nothing but shadows, from which all events, matter, have been stripped away. All the buildings, all the people, everything has been pressed into thin sheets of paper and then taken away. She and I are the only ones still standing, still solid. She won't forgive me. She won't storm me away like all the other events, matter. She kept me aside because she wanted to rip me to shreds while I'm still alive. I'm the only one left in this city. Because of me, every other living thing here has been swallowed by that hole. Except for... which we'll eventually see her. It was all in vain. Everything I tried to accomplish has come to naught. I ended up killing the city that I swore to protect. I can't move my legs. I can't even think where I could possibly escape to. Even if I could, no matter how far I run, no matter what happens, I will be killed. There she is. I hear her voice, and that's enough to dispel the fear that had gripped me.
Senpai!
いいから早く逃げるんです。彼女の蘇生が終わる前に早く。
Senpai grabs my arm while I stand there bewildered, then kicks off and soars into the sky. She effortlessly leaps clean over a building and touches down atop its roof. After dashing along the length of the roof, she takes flight again before landing on the next one down. It's just like the time arcueid went leaping around the city with me in tow. Except this time, I'm actually able to keep up on my own two legs. During my fight with Arcueid a moment ago, my transformation into a vampire, Roa's corruption, has been speeding up by the second.
Senpai! どうして?
どうしても何も聞きたいのはこっちです。あれほど部屋から出ないでくださいと言ったのに、どうして外でアルクエイドと会ってたんですか、遠野くんの浮気者。
Wait, cheater? Is this really the time and place for these accusations?
部屋から出たのは謝ります。でも誤解ですから。どうしても耐えられなくて外に出たらアルクエイドがいて、あいつ自分のものになれとか妙なことを言い出して。
言い訳は後でたっぷりしてもらうにして、今は急いで。
先輩、前。
Oh shit. The castle. Suddenly an enormous wall emerges in front of us. Crazy as it sounds, there's no denying that it's the outer wall of some medieval castle, and because we're mid-jump, there's nothing we can do to stop ourselves from careening straight into it.
トーナ君、口を閉じて。
Senpai grabs me by the arm and slams heel first into the newly formed wall. I hear her footsteps echoing off the hard stone surface. She's using the wall like a road, running sideways along it to avoid crashing. This phenomenon absolutely defies common sense, but Senpai seems more than willing to fight fire with fire.
先輩、これ何ですか？今のどう見ても城の壁でしたけど。
Look at that shit.
空想具現化です。こんな大規模なもの、私も初めて見ました。急ぎます。この規模ではあと数分で街がなくなってしまう。
The shell of the downtown area is stripped away, its contents drained, leaving nothing but the outline of what used to be. Parts of the gigantic castle appear one after another. Senpai and I soar through a night so transfigured, it might as well be another dimension. Odds are we're headed for the school. It seems to be the only place that has escaped the simplification that has swept over the city, possibly because it harbors Ro's stronghold beneath it. We come gliding in from a height of almost 20 meters and land onto the athletics field. It's midnight, there's nobody around, and the school building is as silent as the grave, but it still feels like the world I'm familiar with. The city, on the other hand, has already been completely drained of color. Is that strange whirlpool-looking thing eventually going to swallow this place too? Undoubtedly, this place is no exception. Were I any other ancestor, I could hold my own, but my barrier is not but paper before a principle such as hers. For you see, this is the event conversion that halts even time itself. Or rather, two-dimensionalization caused by this flattening of time. She has converted the entire city into something metaphysical, and then confiscated it, forcing any remnants to stay behind as part of the planet. Truly the ability to reset the planet, it is no hyperbole to say that it's practically an authority. There is but one thing in the city that could withstand such a phenomenon. A signal that is not my own flashes across the backs of my eye sockets. Shit. All this insanity coming at me from outside was already too much for me, and now I'm starting to go crazy on the inside too.
遠野くん、どこか怪我を？
いや、大丈夫。背骨がまだきしんでいるけど、すぐになれます。それより先輩はこれがどういう状況なのか理解できるんですか？
Senpai lets go of my hand and turns to look back at the city.
アルクエイド。いえ、見境をなくした神祖の機能が現れたのでしょう。神祖が本気で能力を発現するとき、世界の方が神祖に合わせた環境に切り替わる。この土地は彼女の望む環境になるために、一旦更地に戻されたようなものです。残ったのは町の残像だけ。現れている城壁は彼女が作り上げているものでしょう。そして元にあった町は不要な遺物として別の場所にしまわれてしまった。
しまわれた？町ごと生き物全部？
ええ、地表に生きるものは最近に至るまで全て。例外は彼女に遺物として弾かれた遠野くんと障壁を張っていた私だけです。文字通り 規格外の怪物ですね。このままでは世界が裏返る。そうなってしまったらこの町はもう取り戻せない。星の内海に収納された事象は二度とこちらに戻ってこられなくなりますから。
This topic is completely beyond me. It's all so preposterously outlandish. But one thing is clear. We can't just let her carry on like this.
はい。あの城が完成する前に真相を排除できなければ、この町は消え去ります。
排除。先輩はアルクエイドと戦うんですか？
それ以外に選択肢はないでしょう。いえ、そもそも彼女の方からこちらにやってきます。遠野くんは校舎の中に入っていてください。
Arcueid is coming. Is she seriously willing to chase us all the way here? All just to kill me?
違う。それは違う。先輩、怒らないで聞いてください。あいつは本当にいいやつで、さっきのは俺がやりすぎて血迷っているだけで、傷が治って落ち着けば。
無理ですね。その落ち着くまでの時間であなたが殺されていますし、この町も戻らなくなります。そもそも遠野くんの中にはロアがいる。アルクエイドにとって最も不要な吸血鬼を殺すことに戸惑いはないでしょう。今の彼女は血に飢えた吸血鬼と化しています。あなたが知っているアルクエイドには遠野シキを殺すまで戻ってはくれないでしょう。
I fight back the urge to argue. What Senpai is saying is true. I think back on how Arcueid was acting earlier. At this point, killing me is the only thing on her mind. Any chance we had of talking things out is passed long ago in the park. Besides, this isn't just my problem anymore. The fate over the entire city now hangs in the balance. She flew off the handle like that because I killed her. So, as much as I hate entertaining the idea, letting her kill me would at least allow Ciel-senpai in the city to...
遠野くん、
She just bopped me on the right shoulder with almost divine finesse. It even felt sorta good, almost like cracking her knuckles.
おかしなことは考えないように。真相がああなったのは自業自得ですし、あなたに責任はありません。彼女はいずれ吸血衝動に負けることが確定していた。それが何年か早まってたまたまこの町で起きただけの話です。あれは悪魔の見えざるダイスのようなもの。人間である私たちは巻き込まれた後最善を尽くすしかないんです。
So saying, Senpai stares off into the eastern sky.
でもやっぱりこうなる運命だったのかもですね。遠野くんを守るためには彼女と決着をつけなくちゃいけなかった。彼女が活動しているとそのしもべであるロアの意志も活性化するんです。遠野くんの中のロアを抑えるにはまず彼女を眠らせるか追い返す必要があった。ですからここで彼女を倒すのは一石二鳥です。
Senpai grabs my arm and starts running toward the school building.
遠野くんは校舎に待機していてください。彼女と戦うのは私の役割ですから。
待ってください。先輩こそここで隠れていてください。あいつとは俺がケリをつけますから。
遠野くん、私怒りますよ。
Senpai glares at me intensely, but the look in her eyes isn't anger. It's the look of someone struggling not to lose their nerve.
私の体のことは知っているでしょ。私は何があっても死にません。けど遠野くんは別です。確かにあなたの目ならアルクエイドを倒せるかもしれませんが、その前に彼女の爪があなたを殺します。遠野くん言ったじゃないですか。 私を幸せにしてくれるって。なら、お願いですからこんなところで死なないでください。
でも先輩一人じゃあいつには。
見くびらないでください。私が今まで何体の使徒を仕留めてきたと思っているんですか？こと吸血鬼退治なら私の右に出る者はいないのです。
Senpai confidently raises her clenched fist in the air. But even as she does, I can see that her fingertips are trembling. Is she afraid? Even as someone who's killed countless vampires? No, it's because she's slain so many vampires that she's able to recognize just how much of a threat Arcueid really is. I can't do it, despite what she says. I can't run away and leave her all on her own. Before I can put those thoughts into words, Senpai cuts me off by gently placing a finger to my lips.
その先はそれこそ言っちゃダメです。お願いですから、私のわがままを聞いてください。一度ぐらい、本当に一度ぐらい、私だけの意志であなたを守りたいんです。そうしないと、私は遠野くんに心から笑顔を向けられなくなっちゃうじゃないですか。
Tears well up in her eyes as she speaks.
私がこんなに早く帰ってきたのはダメだったからなんです。遠野くんを助ける手段は教会にはありません。教会にあるものはロアを利用する方針だけで、転生体を助けようとする方法なんてなかったんです。あなたを失わずにロアだけを殺す手段なんてどこにも。
Oh, well, I guess that's just the way it is. I had a feeling this wouldn't be over so easily.
でもそれはシエル先輩が泣くようなことじゃない。
いいえ、私がもっとしっかりしていれば、ロアを追うことばかり考えず、もっと他の道を探していれば違う可能性だってあったはずなんです。だからもう私にできることはロアの侵食を少しでも遅くすることしかできない。苦しいって遠野くんがどれだけ苦しいのか知っているのに、それでも少しでも長くそばにいてほしいって、そんな自分勝手なことばっかり考えてるんです、私は。
I don't want to see Senpai cry. I don't want to see her cry, so instead I embrace her.
遠野くん。
俺だってできるだけ一緒にいたい。先輩は自分勝手じゃないですよ。自分勝手なのは俺の方なんだから。それに先輩がしつこくロアを追いかけていたから今があるんじゃないですか。全部を取るなんてできない。こうして先輩と一緒にいられる今の代わりにロアを消す手段を作られても嬉しくない。そんなの全然欲求不満です。
でもそれじゃ。
勘違いしないで。俺ロアなんかに負けるつもりはこれっぽっちもありませんから。
As I look at Senpai's face, I compose myself and think back on the clue Arcueid gave me. It's going to be a gamble for sure, but there's still a way to kill Roa without killing me.
ロアの相手は俺がします。自分のことですからね。けど確かに俺じゃアルクエイドを止められないんで、そっちは任せます。吸血鬼に関してなら百戦錬磨なんですよね、先輩は。
はい、ありがとうございます。
I feel Senpai's arms tighten their grip around me. Standing there in each other's arms, our lips almost touch. Nope. But suddenly she hops away from me like a rabbit.
キスはダメですよ。そんなことされたら、私嬉しすぎて気が抜けちゃいます。ですから、今は抱き合うだけにしておきましょう。
だね。じゃあ少し離れてるけど、ピンチになったら呼んでください。すぐに駆けつけますから。
はい、信じています。あ、でもその必要はないですよ。本当に今日は切り札があるんです。以前のようにはいきません。希望でも強がりでもなく、アルクエイドは倒しきります。だから問題はその後です。アルクエイドが消えれば、ロアは全力であなたの体を支配しに来る。その時、私には何もできないけど、お願いします。私が戻ってくるまで、どうか遠野くんのままでいてください。
I get it now. Senpai sees Arcueid as a formidable opponent, but not as somebody to fear. It seems her actual greatest fear is the thought that she might lose to me.
すごいな、先輩は。この状況で勝利宣言とか、どんだけ自信があるんですか？
笑わないでください。真面目な、切実なお話です。
もちろん、おかげで安心できました。大丈夫。ロアには負けないって言ったでしょ。俺が勝てないのは先輩だけです。
I sent her off with a smile, doing my utmost to show just how much faith I have in her. Senpai nods silently, starts running off toward the stairs, then suddenly stops as though she just remembered something.
待ってください。
何？忘れ物？
はい。明日になったら街に遊びに行きましょう。乾くんと3人で、この前のやり直しをするんです。
Her soft smile takes my breath away. Thank goodness. The fact that she saw that promise as something special means the world to me.
それじゃあ、約束。
I hold out my hand.
はい。今度はちゃんと守ってくださいね。
Senpai's hand brushes against mine. After a firm handshake, we pull apart.
遠野くんは校舎から出ないように。でも危険だと判断したら、校庭か体育館に移動してください。
Her blue figure disappears up the stairs. She actually went and left this time. You better keep your word, Shiki. Far off in the distance, I hear a low-pitched rumble emanating from the now unrecognizable city. It's the sound of the atmosphere grating against itself, the screech of the world. The vampiress in white is a veritable natural disaster. Senpai rushes headlong onto the battlefield, intent on confronting and defeating her. Good luck out there, Ciel. You got this. A solitary survivor races through the heart of the Grey City. I noticed the white lines aren't here, okay? The colorless buildings represent mere vestiges of what once was. Their material essence has essentially been reduced to a mere facade. It is on the rooftop of one of these buildings, now little more than a slab of stone, that the executor alights. Oh shit. She got her powered CL form on. She cast off the habit she had been wearing. This is no longer a fight to save others. It is an all-out war of annihilation, where the sole objective is the enemy's execution. Enshrined atop the roof is a glistening jet black object that has retained its normal form. It isn't so much that it had escaped Arcueid's event conversion, as an object from the same plane of existence as her. It was simply never a target to begin with.
万が一に備えて移動させておいて正解でしたね。仕掛けますよ、セブン。断罪師への感想を済ませなさい。
At Ciel's command, it begins its transformation process. 2 firearms, 1 pallet bunker, 1 great sword, 1 suit of armor, and finally, 1 battering ballista. A massive steel comprised of 6 armaments. Together, they form the anti-vampire combat vehicle with the Horn of the Unicorn, Cornucanto, Sacrament at its base, the 7th scripture.
ブレイズ、ブレイル、ブレイクを補助武装として合成。使用弾頭はコーノカント反応光から劣化ウラン弾に変更。テキストスロットは転生期半分から新薬転式に書き換え。あ、照準は手動形式に。自動では彼女に気づかれる。
After giving her orders, Ciel surveys the city below her. Still on the ground, the target is in the park, 500 meters away. The true ancestor Arcueid is still in the process of regenerating. She's motionless, hunched over on all fours. Her back is fully exposed. If Ciel were any run-of-the-mill executor, she would have leapt at this chance to swoop in and attack her.
まったく、騙し討ちもいいところですね。チャンスと見て仕掛ければ、仕掛けた方が追い詰められる。甘い蜜で誘ってパクリとか、食虫植物ですか。
The red mirror's surface continues to spread. Arcueid is about to enter the final stages of her self-reformation. From her previous experience as Roa, Ciel is painfully aware that this stillness is simply the calm before the storm.
蘇生中の守りは万全。下手に傷つければ存在規模が跳ね上がってさらに手に負えなくなる。ここで倒しきるなら仕掛けるのはまだ早い。
Ciel is a longtime veteran of the Burial Agency. Even though she has no first-hand experience fighting against a fallen true ancestor, one driven mad by their vampiric urges, she has undergone various simulations. Records show that the Church has fought and driven back true ancestors' royalty a number of times in the past. These battle reports are centuries old, but even though they are difficult to interpret as a modern executor, and weapon technology has advanced greatly in that time, they still contain a number of useful tips. Thou shalt battle one with many. Thou shalt bring the target's crimes into light. Thou shalt ensure uniform quality across both arms and men. Thou shalt ready the latest steel of the age. Thou shalt engage only within cities enveloped in civilization. For better or worse, only around half of those conditions have been met. The fact that she's fighting alone will be tough, but at the same time, she's able to trivially clear the requirement that all church combatants are to be of uniform quality. When fighting against a true ancestor, the most important thing to consider is the difference in ability from person to person. In human society, the winning strategy may be to have a single powerful leader command a well-organized army, but that will not work against the true ancestors.
他の代行者を気にする必要はない。ここにいるのは私だけなんですから。
It is a fact that's both liberating and terrifying. In a situation without any allies to support you or fall back on, even a single mistake will spell defeat.
それと例の戒め ですか。
The church possessed many accounts of battles against true ancestors, but only one among their number wasn't an account so much as a warning. Mandatory prerequisite. Once the vessel has been determined, thou shalt empty out said vessel. She isn't sure what purpose this serves. What exactly is meant by emptying out the vessel is also an open question. Even during her time as Roa, she never encountered a situation such as this.
普通に考えれば魔力を全て使わせろですが。
For true ancestor royalty, especially arcueid, the most pure-blooded of them all, no such limit to their magical energy exists. In which case, there's no other way to interpret it than kill the opponent after weakening them first. But why would such pep talk make its way into the reports on true ancestor countermeasures? However, there's no time left to spend mulling over the meaning behind that line.
来た。
Uh-oh, she's getting up. If event storage entails molding the world to suit her desires, then that means her vessel, body, will also tailor itself to her preferred form. Ah! Yeah, this is where the long skirt comes in, I think. The true ancestors are the touch of the earth. Unless you transform into archetype earth, in which case that would also make sense. Their power is provided by the planet itself, meaning that all of the planet's resources are at their disposal. In essence, fighting a true ancestor is akin to fighting nature itself. But even among these true ancestors, arcueid Brunstead hides within her the greatest authority of all. So long as she exists upon this planet, she may as well not have a limit at all. Magical energy without limit, strength without limit, capabilities that increase without limit. Such are the qualities of she who bears the name of true ancestor royalty, Brunstead. Ordinarily, the true ancestor's terms of service, dress code, would restrict the use of those qualities. Because true ancestors are alter egos of the planet, they cannot use those resources for their own benefit as humans do. The thought simply doesn't occur to them. When arcueid engages in combat, she is only granted just enough power to annihilate her opponent, to surpass them. Thus, her expenditure, as the alter ego of the planet, is kept to a minimum. Many fallen true ancestors and dead apostles have met their end against these qualities. How could they not? Their opponent would appear with a vessel that is perpetually stronger than their own, and with energy provided by the very planet on which they live. None could survive being targeted by this avatar of the earth. However, if she can exploit the one flaw in those qualities, she can turn the outcome on its head.
アルクエイドを上回る性能を発揮すれば、アルクエイドはより性能を向上させる。生中な攻撃、隙を伺う長期戦になればなるほど、彼女は手に負えない怪物になる。だから。
She has to end the battle with her first attack. Once arcueid has stabilized herself, once she has established a vessel with the greatest combat strength in this domain, Ciel must use her overwhelming firepower to annihilate her before she can increase her capabilities in response. It's a straightforward strategy. The only issue is that it's next to impossible for a human to pull off.
この領域にいる以上、私の力はもう測られている。蘇生を終えた時、私と第7聖典の合計値を基準に力の上限を変えてくる。それがあなたにとって最大の弱点です。アルクエイド・ブリュンスタット。
Ciel runs through the battle plan in her head and prepares herself for what's to come. By working through these predictions, she establishes the steps she has to take to achieve victory. All that remains now is to make that victory a reality. She must survive this reckless, hopeless plan if she means to deliver the checkmate. The burden of responsibility frightened Ciel. It's an emotion she had lost long ago, after she had become immortal. Arcueid almost certainly has ways of killing her while keeping her alive, If she were to cast into that event vortex, for example, there'd be no way for her to ever return. Once engulfed, she'd only be ever able to observe what transpires on the surface from within Arcueid's shadow, forced to look on as a blood-crazed vampire mercilessly devours the person that she loves. Nothing would terrify her more, agonize her more. Her chances of winning are less than 30%. If she gets knocked off kilter and the balance of power shifts, she will likely become powerless to resist as she's defeated by Arcueid.
でも
The executor takes a deep breath and raises her head. Even though she long yearned for death, she now actively fears it. The moment she had something worth living for, she was struck by a fear of death so strong it almost brought her to tears.
これが生きるということでした。
And so she will see it through, come hell or high water. Is that Ciel's big quote, this is what it means to be alive? If so, that's pretty cool, you know, mirroring how Shiki's big quote was, this is what it means to kill. And Ciel's quote is, this is what it means to be alive. Just a cool little touch there. Arcueid is almost done resurrecting. And in the meantime, she got the arsenal ready. The reconfiguration of the 7th scripture is complete. Ciel takes the newly formed battering ballista in her hands and pours all of the magical energy swirling inside of her into it.
主の皆において第7の死因よ、キよ。
Yeah, this is the bow. Yep. We finally see it. Death by condemnation, the scripture that destroys not the flesh, but the soul, activates. Ciel glances at her target, only once before averting her gaze. That single glance is enough for her to calibrate her aim. There's no need for her to look again until she loses her shot. The reason she changed the targeting mode to manual was to avoid taking aim at Arcueid until the very last moment. If she were to directly take aim at Arcueid for even a second, the vampire would eventually detect the existence of the sniper. And once detected, Ciel's sniping is doomed to failure. In order to ensure her victory, she has no choice but to aim at her enemy unconsciously. Does she do that in her last arc? That's interesting. I don't think she does, but that'd be cool. If that's why she has to close her eyes so, you know, so they don't notice anything. Interesting. Needless to say, her plan is completely insane. Sniping normally entails stilling your breath, stilling your very self, and single-mindedly trying to predict your opponent's movements through careful observation. Keeping your eyes locked on your target while remaining out of reach is the fundamental notion and primary advantage of this mode of attack. But she can't exploit that advantage. In this long-distance execution, she can't even think about her target, let alone look at it. She must react to and shoot down her target as soon as it comes into sight. So what makes this any different from the quick draw in the standoff? Now just look at that thing, like seeing it, and like, fun fact, I do play FGO. Seeing this in her Noble Phantasm, like, and her sprite, in Melty Blood, I always struggle to, like, comprehend what it exactly is, like, design-wise. Like, I know it's a bow, but, like, it has, like, feathers and, like, seems like metal in some places. Like, I never really fully grasped, like, the design, like, in a substantial way, and it's very complicated to look at, but also very cool looking at the same time. The difference is that this great bow isn't some simple mechanism that fires when the trigger is pulled. It is the root of a sacred tree that feeds on Ciel's magical energy to fuel its explosive growth. She has to dedicate half of her senses to regulating its still rising internal pressure. The other half are busy controlling the flow of magical energy that drives the repeated scriptural chanting. With a calm mind, she gauges how much of her rapidly dwindling magical energy still remains. And with physical strength alone, she steadies the steel bow as it attempts to buck like a raging bull. It is a demonstration of both sublime precision and brute force. What she's doing right now is akin to one person simultaneously performing every role necessary to fire the main guns of a warship. As the moment of truth approaches, she takes a single breath. She's nervous, but not worried. Ciel's maximum range is 5 kilometers. Compared to that, aiming at a target a mere 500 meters away is as easy as firing a bullet through the eye of a needle. Through her gloves, she estimates the bow's weight down to the gram. She measures the direction of the wind, evaluates her own condition, and gets a feel for the rhythm of her heart. It's almost like she's golfing or something. Her muscle fibers make continuous and minute adjustments to her aim. Off it goes. And lo, a miracle is here beheld. This is the quintessence of the executor spoken of as special, even within the den of monsters known as the Bureau Agency. The one anointed with the title of Bow. Total time to prepare, aim, and fire is 0.2 seconds. The killing blow pierced the true ancestor's head before even the sniper herself could register that the shot had been loosed. Headshot. To Arcueid, such a surprise attack was utterly unthinkable. After all, she held a complete picture of the world around her. The life force she had lost when her neck was severed had been pumped back into her by the planet to mend her vessel. During that process, she had been able to observe everything. The 2 escaping humans, that insect scuttling onto the high-rise above, the force and power of the venomous stinger it wielded. She had pictured all of it with perfect clarity. The insect won't react unless she makes the first move. That's what she'd assumed, and indeed, at the time, she had sensed no malice from the insect on the high-rise above. Which is why she had awoken. Having drawn enough power from it, she had shut off her connection to the planet. She had decided to make the first move in the game that was about to unfold. But in that instant, not in the instant she made her move, but right as she decided that she would make it, her head had been shot clean through. An unperturbed masterstroke loosed by an unconscious bowman. Alter ego of the planet though she may be, with man as her adversity, her body shall never attain godhood. The executor's bow met no resistance as it struck down her defenseless consciousness. Ready for another shot? The firing hammer is raised, the bowstring is drawn. Despite taking a direct hit to the head, the true ancestor's body is still alive and well. This too had been part of Ciel's predictions. First, she would take out Arcueid's head and render her unconscious. Then, before Arcueid regains the ability to think clearly, Ciel would obliterate her body. The second shot is critical if she wants to finish this. After all, a bullet laden with all the magical energy she can muster would be detectable even if she didn't aim. Minimum traceability, minimum aim, and maximum magical energy pressure in a minimal amount of time. That's what she aimed for with her first shot. That said, there was one thing she hadn't accounted for. That her target is so staggeringly pure and innocent, so unthinkably wild and unrestrained, that she'd never intended to listen to reason in the first place. Oh shit. The true ancestor reacts faster than Ciel's eyes can track her. Here she comes. Ooh, that face. Look at that. Look at that. The 500 meters separating them is tantamount to nothing. The beautiful beast is already eye to eye with the sniper. Oh shit, now the real battle begins. Ciel drops the crushed remains of the ballista. Panting heavily, she looks to see what happened to Arcueid after she was knocked to the ground. She had gotten the second shot off in the nick of time. The point-blank impact was enough to send Arcueid crashing to the ground a second time. However, it was far from a clean hit. All she managed to do was hastily adjust her aim and release the bowstring. Her shot had only hit the target by accident, and even then, it had only grazed it. She had put all of her magical energy into that shot. If she'd scored a direct hit, it would have obliterated the true ancestor's vessel, but instead, all she managed to do was knock her away. Well, there goes that. Gonna have to adapt. Ciel catches her breath and wrenches her armaments out of the ballista. The ballista itself had been crushed by Arcueid's claws. Sniping is no longer an option to deliver a follow-up blow. She had no choice but to continue the fight with her two remaining weapons. The first cause of death, an assault rifle, and the pile bunker formed by the amalgamation of the third and fourth causes of death. But Ciel herself has used up almost all of her magical energy. If the average mage is capable of producing 20 units worth of magical energy, Ciel is capable of outputting almost 5,000. Putting that colossal amount of magical energy into a single attack, only for it to end in failure, has taken an immeasurable toll on her spirits. She different. Far below her, she can see the true ancestor slowly picking herself up from the ruins of a destroyed building. The faintest trace of doubt begins to form in Ciel's mind. I can't win. I knew I couldn't win. I should run. I have to run. There must be some other way. There's still a chance, so I should run. I mean, I don't want to die. I don't want to suffer a fate worse than death. If I leave now, I can still make it. If I take him by the hand and flee as fast as I can, then surely... Fully prepared to die, Ciel raised the seal on the final ace of her sleeve. She takes out the fruit that had been stowed away in her pile bunker. A crimson fruit akin to jellied blood. The sole trace of Vlav Archangel's curse left behind after his defeat. The materialization of the power to infringe upon the world, known by name as Hemonomic Principle, Idea Blood. Is she gonna turn back into her royal form or something? Or she just, gain more magical energy? As akin to using like a MP restoration item in an RPG, something like that. Yeah. I would assume it's the latter. Even if it cannot take proper shape, the curse can still serve as fuel. The three principles buried in Ciel's body activate. After having kept it in reserve all this time, she uses Vlav's Hemonomic Principle as a fresh reactor core to supplement her magical energy. Yeah, it was the latter. The price she must pay for doing so is the inevitable toll on her body and the loss of her humanity. She has strayed further from mankind and grown closer to a monster. Ciel holds her hand aloft to the heavens, for she minds not the price and leaps out into the city. Dust wafts through the valley buildings that spread out below her. There lies Abaddon, where the triumphant grin of the vampire in white and a miserable death are all that await her.
グローブの原理が燃え尽きるまで3分弱。せめてそれまでは持たせてみせる。
Spewing blood like spurts of excess magical energy, the Executor plunges headfirst into the final battle. Time. A few minutes before the Executor will launch her desperate sniper attack with the 7th scripture. Place. The epicenter of the steadily warping events. The city is melting, vanishing. In order to negate the history and works built by man, in order to return the Earth to its original form, the maw of the event vortex has opened wide to store away the crude civilization that is overlaid atop the surface of the planet. She watches it all unfold detachedly. She feels no enjoyment, no sense of guilt. Instead, her mind is filled with the thoughts of a single individual, to the exclusion of all else. I hate blank. I'll kill blank. I love blank. I want blank. I hate blank. I'll kill blank. I love blank. I want blank. I hate blank. I'll kill blank. I love blank. I want blank. She has already forgotten the pain of having her neck cut. What happened before that had far eclipsed it in agony. It is a sense of loss worse than death. She had thought she lacked for nothing up until now. She had been under the impression that everything belonged to her, even if she never intended to actually use any of it. Yet that almightiness proved a baseless assumption. When she was rejected by Blank, she finally realized that she didn't owe so much as a single thing. At that moment, she forgot the fact that she was a true ancestor. Pain, suffering, hatred, and sorrow all smoldered within her, but it was rage that burned brightest of all. And so she had screamed. She forgot her code as a true ancestor, forgot her responsibility to the planet, and screamed, "I'll kill you." Driven by nothing but that fury, she had remade the world around her into her own. Such behavior was no different to that of a human's. By exercising her power for purely selfish ends, she had disqualified herself as a true ancestor. There's a part of her that's saddened by this. If I had been alone, I would never have developed these feelings. Such is the tearful lament of that part of her. Ooh, look at that grin. She really is a monster.
Bitches is devious.
However, there isn't a single part of her that regrets any of it. Her agonized screams, born of anger, had instead transformed into waves of pleasure. Why wouldn't they? She's happy. She's having fun. The reason for her malfunction is clear. Was it because she had tasted blood when Roa deceived her 800 years ago? No. What happened back then was nothing more than a mindless rampage. It was not motivated by emotion. This is different, the result of a far more fundamental malfunction. That of having felt emotions for the first time in her life. Those passions had been like a rich dessert to her. It is these emotions born of herself, rather than the things provided to her by the planet, that she now holds so dear. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. That thought alone was enough to make the stars in the cosmos above sparkle before her eyes. She became able to express her gratitude to the true ancestors that had spawned her. And yet, with only a few words, the human who had bestowed this gift upon her had attempted to return her to the way she was before. He had demanded that she return to being an almighty yet destitute tool. I I'm waiting for that visceral laugh to happen. At that moment, her everything had inverted. She had been forced to reject her own self, and so she had rejected everything around her in reply. It's only natural that the world would then turn inside out. She turned sadness into anger, affection into hatred. In doing so, she threw away her newly born emotions. Now, all that remains is for her to fulfill the task she came to this city to complete. After all, her target is, and always has been, Roa. I hate Roa. I'll kill Roa. That is the one emotion she had gained on her own in the course of those 800 years. So long as she acts on that emotion alone, she won't have to keep screaming like this.
So, 私はロアが憎い。ロアを殺す。が好き。が欲しい。ロアが憎い。ロアを殺す。シキが好き。シキが欲しい。シキが憎い。シキが欲しい。シキが嫌い。大嫌い。
Her thoughts are in disarray. They're starting to blend together. The more she tries to keep them apart, the more mixed up they become. And so, she decides to stop thinking. She's confused because she's trying to think about her emotions, about his emotions. So instead, she turns herself into the platonic ideal of a primitive beast, one driven by nothing but its own desires. Her resurrection complete, Arcueid raises her head. She takes in all the information on her surroundings. The layout of the city, the location of her runaway prey, the location of the insect hiding and waiting for an opportunity. She grasps it all with perfect clarity. It's the perfect day for a walk. Picturing the carnage that is about to unfold, she takes her first long-awaited step. But just as she does, headshot. She rises to her feet, pushing aside the slab of stone that stands in her way. Naturally, after being shot by Ciel, she had staged a counterattack, only to be blown all the way back to where she now stands. Since she had already resolved to simply act in accordance with her desires, when she'd been sniped by Ciel, her reaction had not been to ask why, but to act on her irritation. An unconscious counterattack to an unconscious bomberman. When she comes to her senses, 2 seconds have passed since she was shot, and she's already back on her feet. The rage that dyes her mind begins to mix with a new color. She lets out a heartfelt sigh and looks up to where Ciel stands atop the granite high-rise above. An intruder entered the mix, much as if the lowliest of vermin had crawled its way atop the loftiest of stages. She flashes a smile at the vermin, then begins to walk at a leisurely pace. She covers a full 10 meters with each consumedly graceful step. Her destination lies to the southwest of the city. Needless to say, it's the direction of the school, a minuscule puddle that has escaped the event storage. Her destination is 1.5 kilometers away. A delightful jaunt that will take her no more than 2 minutes on foot. She Shiki, you better hide in a fucking locker or something. It's quiet. It's been a few minutes since she left me here. Readying my knife, I take a few deep breaths. I'm bracing myself against my light headache and the fate that soon awaits me. I have faith in Ciel-senpai. If she says she'll protect me, I know she won't go back on her word. But I feel the same way about her. Just as she wants to protect me, I too want to protect Senpai.
そうだよな。何を弱気になってるんだ、俺は。
Right now, I need to be planning ahead at least a little. Even if I've been told to stand by here, there must still be something I can do. Having made up my mind, I head for the stairs. I won't be able to tell what's going on out there if I'm inside the school building. If I head out on the roof, I should at least be able to get a gist of what's happening in the city.
先輩は必ず戻ってくる。お前との決着はその後だ。
When that time comes, it'll be time for me to roll the dice on an incredibly risky gamble. There's no guarantee that I'll make it out alive. Hell, I don't know if that method will even work. But be that as it may, it's the only option I have left. Howko? Somebody once told me, I'm not making the same joke again, the fact that you have those eyes must have some kind of meaning. There will be a time in your future where you need them.
そうだった。なら今がその時だ。きっとこれが俺の役割だったんですよ、先生。
I swallow my fear and ready myself for what's to come. My knife is for that purpose. I briefly express my thanks and farewells for the life that I lived, and for the people who have supported me, then open the door to the roof. I step out onto the rooftop. The hustle and bustle of the city had been halted. The wind has ceased to blow, and the world is now utterly silent. The buildings, stripped of all meaning, with nothing but their exteriors left, reminds me of gravestones. The office district, where the park is located, is only about a kilometer away, but I can't detect anything unusual happening. Is the battle yet to begin, or has it already been decided? During the night, a vampire's eyesight improves dramatically. While the park itself may be out of the question, if I squint, I should at least be able to make out its surrounding. That's the first shot. A flash of light illuminates the city. Ciel-senpai has cast the first blow. She's sniping at her target from a distance. Her first shot is to the head, to try and open her opponent up. The moment Senpai is about to fire her second shot to pierce Arcueid's body, there's an explosion on top of the building where she's taken a position. Here's the second shot. It was Arcueid's counterattack. In the space of the second it took Senpai to knock her next arrow, she rocketed all the way up to the top of the whole damn building.
でも相打ちだ。負けてない。
There they go. And so, the fight between the two switches over to close combat. Senpai brings the full force of her rifle and power bunker to bear in an attempt to halt Arcueid's swaggering advance. In reality, it only lasted a minute, but to me, it felt like the battle stretched on for a whole hour. Senpai is fighting as hard as she can. The way she's pushing the limits of her body makes the fight against Flav look like nothing but a warm-up. She's literally fighting like her life depends on it. And yet, it isn't enough. Even though Ciel-senpai's assault is so ferocious that it's tearing her own body apart, Arcueid just walks on without a care in the world. The blood-rending, almost bone-breaking moment in time stretches on. The strafing of Senpai's assault rifle, the simultaneous deployment of her magecraft formulae, the readiness to put her body on the line to meet her opponent with her sword. All of them. She's coming for you, Shiki. Are rendered moot by a single swing of Arcueid's arm.
その失望は間違ってここは感動する場面。今の姫君に腕を振るわせる称賛にあまりに。
The sudden voice halts my train of thought. There's no one around me. There's no hubbub or other noise coming from the simplified city either. Not that there was ever any question as to whose voice this is. If it's a signal transmitted solely within my own brain, then it can't be anything other than that asshole's consciousness. The issue is more that it's now grown into a voice I can actually hear, or perhaps I should interpret this as my time having finally come. Whatever, I don't have time to deal with him right now. Senpai can't move anymore. She may make a big deal about how she can't die, but if she keeps taking hits so large, they alter the landscape of the city around her. There's no way she's getting out of this in one piece. Are those black keys in the air?
何が素晴らしいんだ。いい加減黙ってろ。お前に先輩の何がわかる。
I yell at the phantasmal voice that lurks in my own chaotic consciousness. This asshole doesn't care at all about how much senpais might suffer. Unexpectedly, his reply to me comes in all earnestness.
状況を把握していないのはそちらの方。あの空を見るがいい。
空。
Prompted by a voice that is mine but not my own, I look up at the night sky.
なんだあれ。
50 kilometers above the ground, a glittering arc has formed amid the stratosphere. The row of stars, wheels, blazing in the light of the sun, look almost like the blade of a guillotine. The avatar in white stands squarely in the crosshairs of Blaze's line of fire. The 30 caliber bullets, which can shred a human body to ribbons just by grazing it, rain down on the vampire's thunder body. Well, this is weird, like we're constantly switching between perspectives. Yep, I knew it! There's the skirt. I knew it. I knew it. Dang, and look at the background. It's like a galaxy is behind her. But they have no effect whatsoever. The space around her has become distorted. The mass that swirls inside her, the energy known in the world of magecraft as mana, is so vast that it hasn't even started to warp gravity. The curvature of space around her sends the bullets flying off course, and even if they could hit her, they'd only bounce right off. What nightmare spawned this body of flesh and blood capable of deflecting 30 caliber bullets without the aid of any defenses whatsoever? What the hell is the deal with that body? Even Vlav had been careful not to take a direct hit from Blaze. By freezing the moisture in the air, he'd been able to block the bullets and avoid being shot. But Arcueid isn't even trying to avoid them. An unwelcome thought crosses Ciel's mind. Is it possible that this doesn't even register to Arcueid as an attack at all? Manipulating the magical energy of her idea of blood, Ciel abbreviates the incantations of her numeromancy to almost nothing, generating an electrical charge. She has given life to magecraft that would ordinarily require a 10-bar cadenza in a single breath, and is employing it in rapid succession. But not even the insulation destroying 2 megavolt thunderbolt has any effect. Arcueid doesn't even break stride, and her permeation of the city advances further and further. Well, she got the heels on too. shit. Yeah, turning everything into a garden. Is this one of Arcueid's intrinsic qualities? Or is it something that's simply leaking out of her? With each step the avatar in white takes, green vines spread to blanket the city behind her. They blanket the now vacant ground, engulf the exteriors of the tightly packed gravestones, buildings, and coat the vestiges of the once city with a primordial pellicle. Even though Ciel is 50 meters away, something tears into her body. It was a simple attack, one that used to compress mana as a blunt weapon to strike at her. What makes it so terrifying is that it's a natural phenomenon, invisible, and impossible to anticipate. Darn it, that's what you say? Not damn it? Darn it? Okay. Both their approaches and their capabilities are worlds apart. Ciel is constantly estimating how close she can get without receiving a fatal blow, never standing in one place for too long as she pulls the trigger. Arcueid, on the other hand, has no plan and no need for caution. All that she has to do is direct her animosity towards Ciel. That alone is enough to cause the city to conform to her will. The atmosphere forms claws that tear into Ciel's back, while the green ivy becomes as hard as rock and beats her down.
いいのシエル。もっと頑張らないとすぐにゴールに着いちゃうわよ。
The avatar in white smiles as she strides through the city. Her footsteps are light, and her whole body radiates an almost unbearable happiness. Yeah, and her voice is slightly different too, confirming the transformation even more. Ciel's body, meanwhile, has reached its limits. Even though she's still bursting with magical energy, her body is screaming in protest. The bones in her legs, her ribs, and the left arm with which she carries her 1-ton firearm undergo the same process of being broken and restored over and over again with each passing second. But even though the curse of immortality restores her body, her bones shatter, her muscles tear, and her organs rupture faster than they can be restored. The unseeable impacts and the evasive maneuvers she performs to avoid them continue to pulverize her insides. Barely a minute has passed since the fight began. Despite that, only 600 meters remain before they reach the school. Both death by immolation, blaze, and magecraft have proved ineffective. In the space of a single breath, Ciel accepts this harsh reality, that the weapons she had put her faith in were inadequate, and that she must give up on shooting at Arcueid from a safe distance, and switches out her gun for her sword. The third cause of death by hemorrhage, blade. This whip sword is forged from the bones of a phantasmal, the same kind of being as Arcueid herself. It's unlikely that it can be deflected like her bullets were, for she puts the full weight of her magical energy behind it. She can slice clean through a tank. Its only drawback is its range. Even with the blade unfurled and the wire stretched to their limit, its effective range is still only 30 meters. Will she even be able to get that close? The mouth of the avatar in white curls in amusement. Sensing Ciel's intent, she grins at her as if daring her to try. With that provocation acting as the starting gun, Ciel takes off. A high-speed gait that covers 10 meters in a single stride. She closes the distance between them in a blink of an eye, and lashes out with her great sword. Nope. No effect. The fully extended whip sword broke through the distortion surrounding Arcueid, slammed into her fair skin, and then raked across it like saw teeth. But it didn't leave so much as a scratch. The weight of the sword and the magical energy it carried were both attenuated by the distortion. The only way to deliver a critical hit would be to close the gap between them, but heavy damage. She's already within 10 meters of arcueid. She can't close the gap any further. The closer she gets, the stronger and more densely packed arcueid's invisible claws become. Right now, arcueid is a veritable bundle of mana, an overwhelming mass of energy packed into a tiny vessel. Although it's a mere metaphysical concept, there's enough mana swirling around that body of hers to remake the Earth. She is like a massive star that had been compressed down to an infinitesimal point. It's hard to believe such density hasn't caused another inflation. Approaching her is to approach the abyss of the planet. Such pressure is impossible for humans to endure.
それでも近づくしかないでしょ。ほら早く私を止めてみせてシエル。
Ooh. Ciel doubles the density of the magical energy circulating throughout her body, turning herself into a living steel before charging within range of arcueid. Ciel swings her weapon relentlessly without even pausing to breathe, only for arcueid's automatic retaliation to knock it aside. Their incandescent skirmish sets fire to the atmosphere, scattering blue sparks. The imaginary factor, ether, begins to break down into elementary particles. Inside of what may rightly be called an ionic hellscape, Ciel estimates the remaining distance. The school is 400 meters away. A little under 2 minutes have passed. Arcueid's pace has slowed down compared to what it was a minute ago. In other words, she's being pushed back.
なんて思った？鉄みたいに頑丈でつまらない女だと思ったけど、案外可愛いところがあるのね、シエル。
Arcueid stops walking. She lifts an arm up to the sky. Sensing danger, Ciel jumps backward. This is no longer the time to close in and try to get another attack off. Up until now, the Avatar in White hasn't even tried to harm her. As soon as her opponent raised her hand, Ciel knew exactly what they were about to do. She knew, but she wished she didn't. It doesn't matter if we're still 400 meters away. To Arcueid, this is more than close enough. Ciel drops her center of gravity and retracts her whip sword, turning it back into a greatsword. Arcueid waits until Ciel is ready to intercept, then swings her arm down. Whoa. That's her archive, right? The scouring shockwave engulfs the city. The breath of the planet is unleashed, tilting the Earth's axis ever so slightly. Ciel meets it head-on with her blade and holds her ground. Ciel's entire body is screaming at her. It's been screaming at her for ages already, but that was merely in response to the pain. This is different. Every fiber of her being is firing off warning signals. That attack is bad news. Don't try to block it again. You'll break next time. The very backbone of your own being will crumble. If that happens, you won't be able to recover.
黙っててよ。分かってから。
Ciel bites her lip, silences her whining body, and readies herself for the next strike. She could dodge it. She'd have no problem evading an attack with such a massive windup, but she can't move from the spot. Because as it happens, the school and Shiki are right behind her. That shockwave would rip through the city and obliterate the school in the blink of an eye. and thus she cannot move. She has no option but to keep warding off the breath of the planet right here.
すごいシエルすごいねえどうなってるのシエルこれでもちぎれないなんてどこまで耐えられるのシエル
Oh, she tweaking. The breath of the planet is unleashed again and again. Taking on the first attack was a gamble won by brute force alone. Taking on the second was an act of hubris. But taking on the third and fourth proved that the second wasn't actually hubris at all. After the fifth attack, Ciel has completely gotten the hang of it. She can deflect it. Arcueid's attacks may be strong, but as long as she can grasp a flow of energy, deflecting them is child's play. It's a straightforward frontal assault, devoid of trickery or strategy. In short, Arcueid is treating her overly fairly. Ciel realized this during the first attack, and when the second came, she trusted in her own swordsmanship and deflected it not with strength, but skill. All thanks to having once had an esteemed mentor who taught her to think with her gut, not her mind, when dealing with a powerful enemy. As a result, she's been able to stave off even a serious Arcueid for this long. 3 minutes have passed. With that, Ciel's battle comes to an end.
つまらない飽きた
Arcueid lowers her arm. Even though these repeated attacks would likely end in Arcueid's victory eventually, she doesn't have the patience to wait. She desperately wants to rip Ciel's body to shreds and go kill Shiki, and she wants to do it now. If she's going to play around, then the game needs to be made a little more exciting.
そうですかでは僭越ながら次はこちらが趣向を凝らしましょうまあ正直あなたの幕引きなんてしたくもありませんでしたが
The defender now becomes the attacker. Much like Ciel, Arcueid is an experienced vampire slayer. Her experience tells her that Ciel isn't lying. She really does have a way to kill her.
それは楽しみね私の息吹を受けたご褒美に見てあげるでそんなご大層な武器はどこにあるのもしかしてその杭打ち機戦車にでも変形するのまさか武器なんて必要ありませんあなたを殺すのはあなた自身ですよアルクエイド
What do you mean by
なん
that?
ですって常に相手を上回るのは結構ですが後出しなのがあなたの弱点ですそれと目も悪いですね地上は把握できても空までは把握できない
Arcueid turns her gaze upward. Here they come. Ciel holds the skies in her hands.
この通り武器はとっくに準備済みです展開に3分もかかるのが欠点ですが控えめに言ってあなたがバカで助かりました
Thank God you're an idiot. The lights twinkling in the night sky aren't stars. They're reflectors created through magecraft. Blazing angel wheels deployed in the stratosphere to focus the light of the sun. The greater magecraft that Executor Ciel devised after defeating the ancestor who had taught her sword, namely,
塵に帰って反省しなさいイデアブラッド25番ベチェ財形を立てカルバリア・ガルガリン
This is her last arc as Powered Ciel. Yep. Comes down the curtain of light. Is she gonna lay down on the ground so I can definitely wouldn't get hit by it? The guillotine descends faster than Arcueid can blink, giving her no time to dodge. Even though she instantly tries to pull back to evade it, the guillotine spans the entire length and breadth of the city, and the time for activation to impact is practically zero. She may be the princess of the true ancestors, but so long as she exists on this earth, she cannot escape this guillotine. Yep, she sure is. That's awesome. The wall of heat flattens the body of the avatar in white. The blade of light is 50 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide. The heat, along with its sheer mass, mercilessly pins Arcueid to the ground and rips apart not just the city, but the very ground it stands on. But one would do well to stand in awe of the majesty of the planet. For even the pinnacle of greater magecraft, devised by man, cannot yet fell the Princess of the Moon. Arcueid had predicted that Ciel would unleash firepower that surpassed her own. It was for that reason that she had drawn so much energy from the planet. The greater magecraft of Calvaria. Though it is a monumental trump card, it still isn't enough. Killing Arcueid through human means is impossible. You got an ace up your sleeve as well. Arcueid braces herself against the earth with her arms. Her body rises, attempting to push back against the wall of light.
人間では神のごときものは倒せない。ですから、とどめを刺すのはあなたの仕事です。
She's literally splitting the world in half. Is that it? She's like splitting the world in half? Like, look at the ground. The land defies gravity. After being bisected by the light, one half of the city begins to rise into the sky, while the other sinks into the depths of the earth. The fissure is like the open jaws of a beast. Damn. Using your own power to kill you. Using the very earth that your power comes from to kill you. That's OD.
好きに暴れたかったのでしょうが、この町を自分と同じものに変えた時は笑ってしまいました。バカすぎて。この質量ならもう逃げようがない。あなたをまんべんなくその器ごと破壊してあげましょう。再生に何年かかるか、それともこれで消滅するのか。これまでの自分の行いにすがるのですね。
The upper jaw of the planet opens wide, or rather, it ascends. This will destroy her. It is beyond any regeneration or resurrection. That which makes her will be destroyed before she can even be killed. It's something she's never experienced before. For better or worse, she has already experienced death once. A murderer she met by chance, a chance miracle, so unlikely it was like a universe, light, being born from nothingness, taught her all about it. But she has never known this kind of annihilation. She's filled by that fear of the unknown. No, that's not right. In truth, she does know. Deep inside her mind, she fears what will happen if she is destroyed. Arcueid desperately struggles to push back the wall of light. But it's too late. The primal bedrock, which she herself had altered into a mass of such weight that not even she could withstand it, is lifted up.
虫のように潰れなさい。
By Ciel's hand, that mass forms a dome, before being brought crashing down on Arcueid. No way that's it, right? I mean, sure, it said it obliterated her, but surely Arcueid has an ace up her sleeve. Ciel, her body on the brink of collapse, steadies herself as she struggles to catch her breath. If she were to sit down now, she wouldn't be able to get back up. She really did use up everything she had. Naturally, that includes her stamina, willpower, and magical energy. But this battle also cost her Vlav's hemonomic principle, which she had secretly kept in reserve, as well as the blood she'd been saving up over the past 3 years to power Calvaria. Ciel has nothing left in her. Under normal circumstances, she'd love nothing more than to collapse on the spot. But there's a reason she has to keep on running just a little while longer.
学校に急がないと。
She can't afford to rest. Yet she has no choice but to accept that if she doesn't stand still for a minute, just 1 minute, then she won't have enough energy to run at all. Although her heart is screaming at her, the rest of her body rejoices every time her lungs expand and contract. Her muscle fibers knit themselves back together, millimeter by millimeter, and oxygen slowly but steadily diffuses into her blood. As her chest rises and falls with each labored breath, it finally hits her that she's made it out alive. Standing amidst the city, which has gone right back to its original form after the guillotine dropped, Ciel laughs at her own recklessness. She has finally pulled off a checkmate. She has successfully repelled true ancestor royalty, a feat nobody else has accomplished before. A sense of pride wells up within her exhausted heart. Even for Ciel, someone who is by and large a non-belligerent person, a battle record like this constitutes something for the history books. If Shiki had been there, she'd probably have hugged him out of joy. The world may have been about to turn itself inside out, but with this, it will return to the interior and exterior to their rightful places. Since Arcueid, the cause of the event storage, has disappeared, everything should return to normal. Uh-oh. However, there's something Ciel has yet to notice. The fragmentary marble castle that had manifested in the city has atomized and begun to converge on the earth, as though returning to its master. Uh-oh, not done yet. She could swear she just heard a rumble emanating from deep within the earth. The sound of a cold, hard padlock, one that must never be removed, breaking. The earth shakes, the atmosphere rumbles. Never before has such density of magical energy been observed. The heat of the absorbed events are condensed onto a single focality. I think this is where we see Red Arcueid's last arc, where she gets all big and shit and like destroys everything with like a solar flare type thing. Yeah, I think we might see that. We might see just a giant Arcueid emerge from that orb. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking whether or not that was going to show up, and I assume it's going to now. It is, in other words, a type of principle. All of the information in the area is compressed into a single 10 to the negative 35th power meter diameter focality. The celestial egg causes no problems so long as it remains within the conceptual dimension of the inner sea of the planet. But as soon as it gains material form, its expansive energies cannot be contained by the focality, causing it to rapidly inflate. In astronomical terms, this is known as inflation, the phenomenon that marks the beginning of the universe. And right now, something similar, though on a much smaller scale, is about to take place within this domain. This is on some Ava shit. We about to see the third impact in Tsukihime. That shit crazy. It's as if the sun has fallen to the earth. It's a light that is hard, soft, hot, and cold all at the same time. The vessel form of a myth-made material. With her reason, and even her madness, destroyed, the original one returns to her starting point. Ether expands and begins to converge. The manifestation ritual nears completion. In accordance with Arcueid's mental image, the directiveless energy transforms into a phenomenon even humans can't comprehend.
信じられない。さっきまでのはまだ正常だった。
Even the son of energy from before is preferable to this. For this manifestation of the avatar is some kind of entity entirely divorced from the concept of life. The highest order of being that humans are able to comprehend, none other than that which goes by the name of God.
あれだけ見境をなくしていて、まだ暴走していなかったんですか、あなたは。
That's her hand. That's her hand. Look at it. It's literally like rising above that big ass building. That should tell you how big she's becoming. The executor is petrified by awe in the face of this majestic sight. There isn't any fight left in her at all. Her stamina is drained, her strategies are spent, and even her final weapon, her will to fight, has been blown away. Her wealth of knowledge allows her to correctly intuit what the phenomenon before her is. Even though Ciel can sense the danger, her limbs are frozen in place. She instinctively understands that it's the result of this phenomenon's mystic eyes capable of paralyzing any intelligent beings that come within their purview. After all, the Church, and all other organized religions for that matter, are intellectual dead ends created for the purpose of subordinating to beings such as this. For someone like her, who derives her strength from those teachings, there's no way to resist. Yeah, so even she can't resist those eyes. That's crazy. Even though she begins to slip into a soul-defying stupor, Ciel grits her teeth and strives as hard as she can to cling to her human consciousness. But at this point, it's too late to resist. Simply being subject to their gaze is enough to freeze the mind, shackle the body, and wrap an iron grip around the vital activities of anything that moves. And besides, oh shit. Ciel's tiny life has already been captured by her hand. Enveloped by the flesh-searing heat, a scream of agony escapes Ciel's lips. The agony comes first from heat, and then pressure. The The light has transformed into a tangible pillar that restrains and crushes her with its vice-like grip.
捕まえた。触ってみると柔らかいのね、人間って。
Ciel is unable to slip from her restraints, no matter how hard she struggles to resist. They don't budge so much as a millimeter. With Ciel trapped in its clutches, the cage of light begins to rise. It rises past the streetlights, then the buildings, and finally comes to a stop in the sky. Despite being imprisoned and unable to observe what's happening around her, Ciel still manages to grasp what's going on. Look at her. Look at her. The Earth's surface has been stored away, and a red firmament has sealed off the entire sky. The giant of light rises from the ground. With the loss of its true ancestor Shell, it is no more than an incarnation of power, whose means of manifestation, existence, have gone out of control. So how exactly do we resolve this? Do we just attack on Titan her and just fucking fly across the sky and slit her neck and that's gonna be it? Like, what's going on here? Like, how do we solve this? The one thing that hadn't been a part of her domain, the sky, feels like it's enveloped by her voice. Ciel, who had been struggling to break free, slumps, stilled by a combination of fear and despair. Why wouldn't she? A human could never overcome a god. Ironically, that is the undeniable fact that Ciel herself had stated earlier.